Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve is going to talk about a subject. I have no knowledge what he's going to talk about. I will respond, and we'll have a conversation about it. He may or may not agree with what I replied to. That is part of the fun of this podcast. Okay, over to Steve.
Hi, people. According to an article in Newsweek, millennials in the United States, a third of millennials in the United States identify as LGBTQ. There was a recent study that was done, and this study found this out. The author of the study, George Banner, said it was because of media and social media turning it into a safe and cool trend. So it's like a club to be with, you know. Before we go any further on this, because I'm going to put it to you that the LGBTQ movement is actually a Inc, because there's a lot of money to be made from the movement.
Mm.
But let's go back a few years. I went to school 10 years before you did.
Yeah.
I'm about 10 years older than you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at school, this movement, if you like, was called GLS, which on the street, man, you know, my fellow pupils,
Yeah.
it was for gays, lesbians, and sympathizers. So if you were sympathetic to the cause, you'd be part of this movement as well. And some students really got on really heavy in this. When my sister went to school a few years before I did, you know, she was heavy into Bay City Rollers, and in the Bay City group, the Bay City Rollers, and so her sort of thing to get off on was buying the clothes of the Bay City Rollers.
Yeah,
you know. But when I was at school, it was like I said, GLS, Greenpeace, when the Rainbow Warrior was still around, ramming into trawlers.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and sort of when I was at school, it started to get a bit more political. When my sister was at school, it was more to do with fashion and music oriented fashion. When I was at school, it was still fashion to be in these movements, you know, even though you didn't understand them all that well.
Yeah, okay.
And then, but it was more political. It was more on a political sort of basis. I don't know if that's because I was going up through the years in school, and I was more aware of it. You know, like when I was in the first and second years, when my sister was in the fifth and sixth, was in the fourth and fifth year.
Yeah.
And she was, I sort of just saw the fashion part of it, and I didn't see the political part of it. But there you go. Of course, then GLS became GLBT. GLBT. What was GLBT? I hear you ask.
Yeah.
That was gay, lesbians, bisexual, and trans.
Right. Okay.
And you're going to say to me, no, but it was LGBT. And I'm going to say, well, that's because during the 80s, when they had that thing about AIDS that went rife, you know, the only people that supported the gay blokes were the lesbians. And so after the all that sort of passed, when all that was cleared, you know, the gay department of the GLBT said, ladies, you were the only ones who helped us, so we're going to put your letter first. And so probably it's the only time when a bloke said to a lesbian, you go first, you're a lady. You know, without her complaining about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, okay.
So passing on
Yeah.
Passing on through the years, of
Yeah.
course, it got to LGBTQ,
Yeah.
then LGBTQ plus,
Yeah.
and there are a few acronyms here. LGBTQIAAP is one of the latest ones,
Okay. Right.
or LGBTQIP2 SAA is another
Hmm.
one. Or if you're in Canada, 2S LGBTQI plus.
Oh, okay.
So all of these entities here are
Hmm.
all getting grants from the government to do their research, and
Yeah.
you know,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
they have lobbyists in the
Hmm.
United States. This I know, going after the politicians, saying you have to pass this law, you have to make this law, you have to give us more money, you have to give us more money.
Hmm.
And so as long as they have members to the club,
Hmm.
which is safe and cool,
Hmm.
then they'll get more money, because if they're dealing with more people, they're dealing with more money. So now we have to have a look at uh, who these people are, who are members of this group,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to tell you. See, no need to try and think of who they are. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
It says that it's a subset of a larger issue. This generation, the millennials,
Hmm.
doesn't have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. A lot of this generation claim to be moving in that direction, but few live in the lifestyle. So a lot of
Hmm.
millennials are saying, "I'm part of the group," but none are wearing women's clothes. If you're a guy,
Well,
you know, I mean, they're not obliged to wear women's clothes. But
no.
what I'm trying to get at is
Yeah.
that they aren't doing anything to suggest that they are in great earnest.
Right. Yeah. I understand.
If,
Yeah.
if right, you know who Ernest is, don't you?
Yeah. 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 Um.
So hold on, I'm not finished yet.
Oh,
Hold
yeah.
on.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, there's more.
It's like the
There's
growing
more.
alphabet. Oh, I'm the sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. 30% of millennials and 38% of young millennials. A young millennial is somebody who's between 18 and 24.
Okay.
Identify LGBTQ. 75% of these people also say they have no meaning and purpose in life. So three-quarters of these people who identify say they have no meaning and purpose in life. Uh, I mean, it's like a case of, what do I do in my life now? If I've got no meaning or purpose in my life,
Oh,
what am I going to latch onto? I'm
interesting.
going to latch onto the next fashion, the next, like my sister bought the
Yeah.
basic to roller clothes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Uh, in 2018, only 8.4% of millennials felt this way, and in 2012, it was 5.8%. You could argue that perhaps there were less millennials around in 2018 and 2012, but either way, that's what the stats were back then. In this same study, 29% of young millennials had a mental disorder. This isn't me saying this. This
Yeah.
is what came out in the study that was published in Newsweek. 54% of all millennials had some degree of emotional fragility or mental illness. So half of all millennials in this study, 96% had a lack of biblical worldview, despite most having a favorable opinion of Jesus. Now, Jesus, I'm talking about Jesus from the Bible, and not
Yeah.
Jesus who works at McDonald's, the Mexican
Yes.
guy.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Well.
Less than a third believe in God, which is strange, and 75% say they lack meaning and purpose in life. That's of all the millennials in this study.
Okay.
What is really surprising is this group, the millennials, is the group that has been educated the most in all time.
Mm.
Uh, more have more have attended high school and university than in any other period of time.
Yeah.
However, they are the most confused, depressed, and lost. It's a lost generation. This study. Uh, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
you're quoting from a you're quoting from a hopefully an academic research that's been done by people. Um, yeah,
If a third of American millennials are identifying as LGBTQ, imagine San Francisco. That's got to be wall to wall LGBTQ. They
again,
won't know
that's,
which way to turn them.
I'm not going through all the jokes that just gone through my head, but yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, okay. Um, right. I'm gonna preface. There's no button. It's a preface. I actually support the rights of everyone to live in a way that makes them happy. Yeah. Um, of consenting age. I mean, sexually, and even up to that. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I fully support the notion that of freedom for all. Yeah, even outside my Christian beliefs. And that's a different thing. I've always maintained, I've been brought up with it, that these Christians are ultra against all gays, and I'm missing the point. It's not for me to judge what's a sin or not in our earthly world. Okay, I'll let the big man upstairs decide. Yeah. Um, and I had this conversation with a client, yeah, a teacher, yesterday for now. It as I can okay, I can accept people's life, and I'm just prefacing before I say this part. Prefacing, yeah. I can accept people's lifestyle. I don't have to understand it. Yeah. And this again. Now, what's happened in these movements? And yes, there is a commercial element to it, and I saw it ages ago. And I also grew up
Oh yeah.
in the 80s. Yeah, is oh, you've got to understand this, accept it, and be part. I don't have to be part of anything in a liberal society, and these people talk about liberal, and you and I are both liberals. We don't judge people on a lot of things. We judge them on the nature of their character, how they interact with us personally. Yeah. Um, yeah, okay, wider society. There's always going to be grey areas. Right. I like you, I grew up in a time, like you say, 10 years after you, and quite like even your sister. Okay, we knew about things in school. Yeah, we knew about things. We were even taught, I remember in a biology lesson being taught in a Catholic school um, about different sexual preferences. And I'm not using lifestyle choices. It is or preference. Yeah, preference meaning people's way of what they considered attractive. So I grew up in this background, but we were more interested in music, listening to music, like your sister was. Yeah, okay, basically we talked about you quite good. My two favourite groups and artists when I was growing up, and again now, even now, were Queen and David Bowie, amongst others. Okay. Okay, the frontman of Queen, Freddie Mercury, very, very open about his sexuality preference. Okay, no problem. Even my parents listened, or not say even the parents listened and everything. We all knew. It was a bit wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I did actually work with a woman who was absolutely loved Freddie Mercury. At one point. Again, David Bowie.
What's not to love?
Well, yeah. David Bowie. Okay, David Bowie was a bit different. Yeah, hanging around bars with Elton John at one point and Mark Bolan. Yeah. Um, again, Elton John, absolutely great musician. I respect him for that. I don't have to like his lifestyle. He's passed a few jokes about his lifestyle, which I found very amusing. Um, I support his right to have a lifestyle which makes him happy. anyone. Yeah. And this is what it's all about. To actually then start politicizing it. And I'm going to go into the history of it here, things I've read. That all I'm a straight guy. I read a lot of history and social history, and in London and all that, there were the brothels. Part of the attraction of these brothels, when you read the psychology at the time, was the fact it was clandestine. It was under the radar. It was, if you like, people would go there to have a good time. It didn't affect anyone else, really. It didn't affect the wider society. People who were consensually into one lifestyle went to these brothels. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Oscar Wilde got caught. Yeah, Oscar Wilde, great author, absolutely brilliant satirist, satirized, yeah. And also, yeah, but he got read. I've actually been in a boat outside Reading Jail. He was held in Reading Jail. He went to prison, the axe. Yeah. So we've moved on. Thankfully, we've moved on. And then if we're talking about these people, contribution, yeah. Alan Turing.
What I'm trying to, yeah, what I'm trying to identify is that these entities, groups, if you like, the LGBTQ, the LGBT is actually now a foundation. So you know that they're getting funded, and you know, if everybody turned around and said, I want to live my life how I want to do it, and I don't want to be associated with any group, then these groups would disappear tomorrow.
Well,
these groups would, they need these people to be part of their group so that they can make money. Just for example, we're in the land of carnival.
Yeah,
the carnival, and in the off peak time of the carnival, there was a thing called Hesifolia.
Yeah,
which was like on a day or two. And the guy who organized Hesifolia, he only did that throughout the year. His payment was everything he got from the sponsors, from people that paid to be on the floats, from the people that paid, which is very much similar to gay pride. You know, where the people are going to get the sponsors. The guy who organizes it is making all the money, man. And as if the gay community decided they didn't, all of a sudden they didn't want to be part of a gay pride festival, if you like, he wouldn't put on the gay pride. It wouldn't just be him with a point of view to me.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, okay, if there's a market for it. I mean, this is the other thing. If there's a market for it, and you're quite right. If people want to attend these things,
there you go.
Yeah, if people want to attend these things, go for it. I mean, I've got, like I said, I've got with Startup Culture Club, brilliant music. Watch them. We didn't think anything of it, and it's like I say, and it's getting back to what you're saying. We didn't think about it. We didn't care. I come from a generation, and when people say Gen X don't care, they're quite right. We just didn't care. We liked something. We didn't care. We didn't.
Let me give an example here, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Around about, I imagine it to be around about 8 years ago, perhaps. There was a group in Russia called Pussy Riot.
Oh yeah, remember them? Yeah.
Right. And their little thing was to have cat's ears on a wire stuck on the head, and it became a fashion. It became fashion in the UK. Even my niece wore them.
Yeah.
When she went out, and there were these little, and the little girls at school used to wear them. You know, and everybody thought it ha ha ha. Even though the message from Pussy Riot was rather extreme, should we say? But more recently, people are saying to these next generation of little girls that are coming through, you can be anything. If you want to be a cat, you can be a cat. You can be a cat. Put cat's ears on. and they do.
Yeah, I mean,
But they do it because it's a fashion. Because my friend's going to do it, I'm
yeah,
going to do it.
yeah, of
And
course.
who's got the biggest ears? Who looks better in their ears?
Well,
You know
okay,
what I mean?
yeah. I mean, okay. I've had conversations with two younger female members of my family, and they call me, they accuse me of being a liberal because I'm like other members of my family. I'll listen to them and say, I'll put an
Mm,
opinion. And I'll say, well, yeah, we've all been young. Yeah, like you say, we got involved with that. I mean, maybe we used to dress like um, other people or everything else. I was a bit of an individual, but I suppose, yeah, I used to wear denims because I was into rock. I used to wear things like the Euro-Romantic movement as well, some of their music. So depending on what day it was, what I felt like, I would dress accordingly, or probably even whom I was meeting in town. Yeah, and
I can't imagine you in makeup. But there you
no,
go.
no, I mean, I think I'm not saying anything. Since I've been married, that has happened once
Yeah.
on a something, but I'm not going into details on that. Yeah, my
Okay.
wife's pretty good, but um, it's yeah, I didn't go anywhere doing it, but it's a yeah, only at the weekend. No, it is a it again movements and things like this. Now, yeah, I've had conversations, and yes, um, I mean, I'm not against people being aware and inclusivity in all things in society. Yeah, we've gone
Yeah.
past the point of this and that, and yeah, condemning this. And my Gen X generation probably brought it in more than yeah your generation did. You didn't care either. Then you in the 60s. Don't forget in the 1960s on the radio, and I'm going to talk about society and influences. Well, yeah,
No, I remember Quentin Crisp.
yeah, there was
Quentin Crisp was probably the most famous gay guy in the
yeah,
UK.
okay,
He got
yeah,
beat up every weekend.
yeah, but which is
They
wrong.
made a film about him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No,
which
no.
is wrong, which is totally wrong. I mean, but we had Round the Horn and Beyond Our Ken, which had Sandy and Julian in it, and it was at a time when homosexuality was illegal or not really established. People understood the jokes. Okay, there were things from the 50s. I grew up with Frankie Howard, and his whole joke was he played a straight man in films, and everybody knew he was anything but that was all part of the joke. But you knew, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Kenneth Williams,
Mm,
Charles Hawtrey from the Carry On
mm,
films. Absolute, I mean, quite in their diaries. Absolutely brilliant performers. I don't know what they were like for social things. Okay, people write about their interactions with them afterwards. Maybe they were frustrated for a few reasons. Um, but yeah, but their popularity, people knew, but it didn't stop their popularity. Um, what the funny thing is, when you read about these people, they didn't want any movements. They didn't want anyone really looking after them.
They just wanted to do their thing.
Yeah, and the part of their thrill of it, if you like, rouse or whatever else, was the fact it was a little bit naughty. Yeah, but it was consensual. I mean, I don't know what was going on with other sexual preferences at the time, and maybe, well, I do. I've read some quite horrific things as well from dating back from the 1700s onwards. I don't go around reading these. I just happen to read a lot of history books, social books, and these things get mentioned. Um, you know, so what we're looking at is not you. Now, what normally leads to ends of empires, if you actually read about ends of empires, is there is an issue with people's sexual identity and gender issues. It follows a trend. It splits things. It's divisive as well. And there's a big difference between allowing people to do their thing and then people going down the street corner shouting. If we were to shout, and we're seeing it more and more, somebody that quotes from biblical text, and you mentioned biblical, okay. It was somebody mentions something from the Bible that might be suggest something that's counter to an agenda that's going around, and the police go and arrest them, normally with their rainbow badge on. Police are not meant to be wearing any
No.
identification like this at all. So again, I don't know how they're getting away with it. Certainly British police. I can't speak for other police, yeah. Um, I don't care what the policeman's preferences and everything else. They uphold the law for everyone. You have a freedom of speech to say things. As long as you don't incite actual aggression against any single members of society directly. But you can have an impression. You might not like the notion of two people same sex going together. That's a personal preference. You don't like it. It's not against the law for people to be doing that. Over 18, I believe the law is now in the UK. Was it 6? I don't know the law. I don't even know the law now. The UK, but it is and again, so yeah, you're quite right. Now, people coming in and stirring it up, and I've often thought this. There's got to be a reason, motivation, why people are so. Yeah, exactly. And that is a worrying thing. And these people then becoming pawns in a game. Excuse it, pawns in a game.
And if they try and get out, they get brought back in again.
Well, and again, but you do have. I mean, I heard, was it?
It's like Scientology, man.
Yeah, Douglas Murray. I saw an interview with him. You know, Douglas Murray. I think he's a gay man. He's openly gay man, and he says he doesn't quite know what the gay community is, any more than our community. Yeah. The gay community says what everyone in this so-called community says it. Yeah. It's like saying in any cross-section of society, yeah, the LGBTQ plus community. What is that? Are these people paying a subscription to it? Are they doing anything else?
Not being funded by the government, sir.
Well, I know. Well, again,
and big business.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I've worked for companies that suddenly they change their logo for a certain time. I'm not against awareness, and if people are being persecuted because of their sexual orientation, that is wrong, quite frankly. Yeah. If okay, now there's also a movement, and what's really strange is these. Let's just pretend that the LGBTQ they're supporting Hamas. You try being of a different sexual orientation, alternative sexual orientation to what the Hamas would expect you to be in Palestine or any other in any other Islamic country, within reason. Yeah, I'm not saying that every Islamic country is the same. You try. What happens to you? You try being gay in Afghanistan now, in Iran. Yeah, who support and see what happens. So I mean, again, it's all latching on to things. These things are connected, and yeah, there has to be money involved in it, and I totally agree with you. And that's obvious.